Good morning, everybody. And
Good
today
morning.
I have the pleasure of introducing you to Anna, someone I've done a lot of interviews on Anna's show. And today, now I've started to doing some interviews on my own show. Anna was one of the first people I wanted on. Anna, it's a pleasure to have you on, darling.
Pleasure to be here. It makes a change to be on the other side.
I was thinking that myself earlier. I thought, well, this is going to be a strange one because you normally lead the conversations.
Yeah.
Now, Anna, it's on my channel. I always talk about the food and farming side, as you know.
Yeah.
One of the big things which I think we stepping on from that effectively, what I'd like to cover today, if that's okay with you, is I know your channel is about prepping. Now, that might be in how to cook something because you kindly send us loads of videos for the Food Finders Hub.
Yeah.
For public to kind of get a grip of how to get back to making real food and having less processed food in their diet. And really the next step onto that, I think we need to start talking about this thing called prepping. And I know that's something it's just quite dear to your heart and mine, I have to say. But you have done a lot of videos about this. You know, I think it's important that, you know, people following us, you know, if you're on one of my channels, find Anna on her channel and start to get to grips with what is going or what needs to go on more than what is going. We know what's going on with the rest of the trash around the world, but I think the importance of having a stockpile of food and what to do with it. So does that sound that's something we can manage between us?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Prepping, I said, prepping is a way of life. This is the motto for the channel. It's been very under or over, how to say it? It's been overexposed by unfortunately, by the people in America. And I think people somewhat a bit scared of the whole word prepping, because if you have a look online, Google, or even have a look on the YouTube, you say prepper, and it's like, you know, dude standing there, you know, wearing camo, wearing, you know, like
I think that the word prepping almost got chucked in with conspiracy theorists, didn't it? And you know, if you were a prepper, you were just mad. You know, you're expecting doomsday to come. Well, you know, and I think you'd agree, Anna, that prepping can be on the necessity of lots of things. There might be a flood, there might be a whirlwind, there might be, you know, deep snow, something just to make sure you're covered for a few days, a few weeks. Because I mean, when we were children, now I don't, you know yourself, Anna, but when we were kids, we would think nothing of getting snowed in. You know, we live in rural Suffolk, and we used to get snowed in for a couple of weeks at a time and thought it was brilliant because that was proper entertainment playtime when we were, you know, 10-foot snowdrifts and we couldn't get out. But there was always enough food in the house. We never ever went without anything. You know, I remember we had a phone. We had a phone in our house because my dad worked for the government, and the village post office, which was about 1.5 miles away, used to get the milk delivered there, and we used to get a phone call to say send someone down for the milk, and there'd be deep snow, but we would go down with a sledge and the milk crate and a couple of straps, and we'd put the milk on and drag it all the way back through the villages, up all the lanes, all through across the fields and everything.
Good times, though. Good times, wasn't it?
Oh, and this is what I think, you know, kids miss out on so much these days. I really do. So, Anna, obviously, 10th of February, I don't know if you've heard of this one. The 10th of February, the farmers are going back to London.
I haven't. You know, to be fair, I haven't heard. I heard 10th of February going to be a downpour of rain. That's what I heard so far.
Is that right? Oh, well, that's probably why that's coming then.
Yeah.
So 10th of February, Farmers to Action, are organising a massive rally, the biggest one yet. They're reckoning there's going to be 2,000 or 3,000 tractors alone.
Oh, that's good.
And looking for vast amounts of people, including the public, I have to say, to go down. Now, on the back end of that, obviously, the last thing that Farmers to Action did was they were the ones who blockaded Morrison's and so forth, so they couldn't get the lorries in and out of the depots. Now, what I wonder if will happen is because they've now taken out a load of court orders. They say they're supporting the farmers, but while they're supporting the farmers, they've taken out a load of court orders to say you can't park your tractor there in future, right? I genuinely believe we're stepping ourselves, as in the country here, because of what is happening with the farmers and the supermarket supply. I think we're stepping ourselves towards major food shortages. So if you were new to my channel, your channel, Anna, what would be the basics from your side that you would start to think to yourself, I would be putting aside A, B, C, D, whatever that might be.
Yeah. First of all, I think, Mark, it's important to understand that we're not all the same, because obviously what we eat in the diet is different. So as a prepper's trio that I call it, is the rice, beans, and oats, because obviously they're carbohydrates. That's what really keeps you really full. But then at the same time, a lot of people say, well, I don't eat oats, I don't eat rice, I don't eat pasta, that kind of thing. So you have to understand and actually tailor what you and your family eat. So generally, as a beginning of preparedness, I'll say actually open your cupboards, right? Take a notepad, have a look what you have, and actually see what you normally eat and what sort of quantities you consume, stuff, and then make a list. And then have a look and say, well, actually, how much of it do I eat and how much of it do I want to have in my pantry just in case? Because at the same time, it's very important to try to aim to some sort of a figure in terms of the days. Are you preparing for a week or two? To be fair, nowadays, a week or two is great, but it's not really going to save you from, things like if the shortages are happening, we're talking months, like we're talking few months.
Absolutely.
So for the preppers, a good time is really 3 months minimum, and then obviously aiming 4 years, and then as you prep further, 5 years and potentially 10 years, depending on what you're preparing for. But first of all, so write a list of the foods that you have in your cupboard, okay, how often you eat them, and then obviously add on the tins. Or so the tinned food is not the best, right? We all know it's not the best in terms of health. It doesn't offer a lot, but it offers calories and it offers fats, be it the good ones or not. So tins are the epiphany, really, of the prepper's food, on the top of pasta, rice, and beans, and oats, in fact. So
I suppose, Anna, they do also give you the fact of staying alive if a lot of other people aren't having that opportunity. So, I've always said, tins are a necessity. They're that necessary evil, aren't they? They might be high in salt, they might be high in sugar, but it's going to get you through. And that's all you're trying to achieve on a short-term basis. And like you say, so from your side, you would suggest a short-term, mid-term, and long-term answer?
Yes, absolutely. But the storage and what you buy, it's very much dependent on what you choose to. So short-term unfortunately, short-term for the preppers is between 6 months to a year. This is as a sort of hardcore prepper. This is what we call a short-term, or this is what I call a short-term, because this is what I have pretty much in my kitchen cupboard there. Then you have a medium term from 1 year to 3 years, and then thereafter from 3 years to say 10 years or thereafter. So what you store and how you store this will depend on your time that you expected to keep the food in your pantry. But see, with the tins, sorry.
No, go on.
I say with the tins, because many people assume and they say, well, I don't need this stuff. So if I don't need the tins now, why bother buying this now? And I hear this a lot, and I'm sure you do as well. Well, who wants to eat, tinned meat all the time? Well, nobody does. I know you partial to tin stuff, but
I like tinned ham and tinned corned beef. I love that.
Yeah, that's fine. But generally, on a daily basis, it's not something many people consume. Even preppers, I don't eat tinned meat on a daily basis. Love tuna, absolutely. But anything else is there for an emergency. And the people got to understand, first of all, if you buy that corned beef or any other tin of, say, soup or anything else, it will sit in your pantry by far past the date that's on there. So dates already on the tins, couple of years, if sometimes longer on like a corned beef and tuna, but it will sit in the pantry for another 5 to 7 years. In fact, it will sit there with the proper storage indefinitely, unless you dent it or high moisture content, that kind of thing outside. So that's absolutely fine. So the dates on there, it doesn't matter. And at the same time, people worry, well, if it sits there, don't use it, what to do with it? Well, there's nothing. You just look at it as an insurance. If you think how much money we're paying, for any house insurance, car insurance, anything, half of it we don't even want to pay, but we're paying it. So what's for you to go and invest £200, and this was not even a year, to buy yourself enough tins to last you, say, for a couple of months? It's a mental understanding.
I think one of the things which I realised, Anna, when I started prepping heavy on the food was just pre-pandemic. And then you were giving 50p for, let's say, a tin of spaghetti bolognese or something, bolognese. I'll use that as an example, because I think they were 50 or 59p at the time. And I was in Farm Foods yesterday to pick something up for my parents. And I was in there, and a tin of spaghetti bolognese now, Heinz spaghetti bolognese, is £1.50.
Yeah, that's a good price. Generally, they're over too.
Jesus, that has gone up so much. So when you look at, we talk it as an insurance policy. You're also an insurance against inflation as well.
Absolutely.
So, I think people need to perhaps look at food preparation and preservation as a little bit more than just having food in the cupboard. They need to look at it as a way of financial savings as well. And I think that's very underestimated.
Yeah, my perfect example, the same like what you've done with the beans, not beans, sorry, the tins of Heinz. My perfect example is the Lidl's olive oil. Although now, after doing research, I appreciate it's not the best olive oil, but the fact is, as a prepper, I'll buy oil, and we're all governed by the budget. So it is, I think, again, a lot of people think that prepping does cost like a lot of money. It does, right? But you do this in the little stages, and I've done many videos where I've done like £5 or £10 weekly challenges, and then I've showed in the end of the videos how much you can actually save. And again, when you do buy prepper food, a lot of preppers don't buy the high end like Heinz and stuff because they're just not financially worthy, because what it gives you really just more sugar and anything else. So you can buy stuff in a small increment. So olive oil, I've been doing this time and time. So when a few years back, I think I've started filming the prices in the supermarkets. The Lidl olive oil was £2.69, and then over literally the course of 2.5 years, it's gone up to £7.49, which was last week or last 2 weeks, right? So can you see the massive increase? And this oil is not even nice oil. So my point is, I have olive oil that sits in my cupboard because I've been buying this every time I go, and over the space of, just imagine, I've been buying this for probably 1.5 years, and I stopped paying. I said to myself, when it reaches like £5 mark, I'm not buying this out of principle, because I already have 20 bottles, say, in my pantry, because that's fine. They'll last me for a very, very long time. So now I'm like, look, the point proven. I'm trying to explain to people by doing this, okay, then I suddenly saving £5 a bottle almost, because I already have it. And olive oil dates, again, people might say it's go out of date. Well, the olive oil that you might have already in the shelf does give you best before date. It's irrelevant, because that can tell you what date the olive oil was bottled. So the olive oil that sits in the barrel for 2 years might just only be bottled this year, so it's already 2 years old. So something I covered on there. So don't worry about this. The worst going to happen, you might start smell a bit plasticky, but we're talking about, I had some oil past 7 years, and it started just to go a little bit funky smelling. But the point is, we're saving money, and don't have to buy 20 bottles. The point is, as long as you have a couple, okay, they'll last you. You'll ration stuff. If there's not enough food going in the supermarket, people naturally, when you squeeze by either financially or the lack of, suddenly every tiny drop is precious. It's like when you grow your own produce, with anything. Sorry, I'm getting carried away, but like either it's tomatoes, or for example, let's go with tomatoes. They taste so much better. And then you pick them, and it's like, oh, do you know what? Shall I pick low? I'll just pick a little bit. I don't want to waste them in case I don't use them all, because I'll just pick tomorrow, But if you buy them in a supermarket, in the winter we do, check them up in the salad, make salad, blah, blah, blah. And you don't need half of it. It's like, oh, well, do you see what I'm saying? Not everybody is the same. But I found when it's limited resources in the greenhouse, things are precious. When there's not enough outside, it'd be just that much more.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting you say about grow your own. I know you, like me, are very keen to grow your own food.
Yes.
Are you someone, Anna, who saves seeds? Because seed saving is something I've got paranoid about the last few years.
I do. I do this a really wrong way, though, Mark. A really wrong way. I think I shared this in one of my videos before. I'm one of those people that, if I say I harvested my tomatoes and I'm making a salad, so I'll take one, the really ripe one, take the seed off, and do the usual, how to, let them sit there, go manky for a bit, strain them, blah, blah, blah. And then I put them in like a little kitchen paper, and I'll fold it over. I write on it what it is, and I put this in the utility room in the one place to dry this. And then after a while they're dry, I just fold it over. I'm like, I don't have time for boxes, put them anyway. So I just put them in a plastic container. So all my homemade seeds are in the box, plastic box, folded in and stuff like that. Not the best way of doing that, but... Well,
it's not the worst way, I will say.
No.
We've I've put out an appeal for people on the channel for people to send us seeds if they've got seeds they wanted to send us.
Okay.
Anna, we have been inundated. It's amazing that we've had so many people that think like us. I know your YouTube channel sitting at about 15,000.
No, pushing 17 now.
Is it really? It's shot up again. Great news.
Yes.
And mine's crept up to like 12. And what I found is that the audiences, as our audiences have, since we first started talking, our audiences have both grown together. And there's a lot more people are a lot more awake, I believe, about what's going on. Put all the other trash to bed, because I don't talk about none of that. Just about the food and the farming, that people are becoming more concerned generally.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, a lot of the seeds and that what people had tucked away, they're actually going, because we've been saying we're going to put a seed bank together, so that should there ever come a time where there is a proper problem, that we have a load of seeds that we can properly farm with, and get things moving again. And we've had loads and loads and loads come through the post. I just can't thank people enough for that.
Is that for your redistribution afterwards, or is it just for you to farm them and then get more seeds?
Yeah, so this is the farm. So what I'm going to do now, with what's going on at the farm, for the reasons because of what's happening here, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to split them into 3 different lots, an equal amount of each, and I'm going to distribute them to 2 other people who've said that they run seed banks as well, so that there is enough seed in 3 places. Because if the shit really does hit the fan at any point, then I think communicating with people might be a different option to what we've perhaps got now.
Yes, unfortunately, Mark, that's part of the prep, and it's a tough one. It is a tough one, because we rely, aren't we, on the internet?
Yeah, we get our message out, thankfully, because of like YouTube and TikTok, X and Facebook, whatever it might be, and StreamYard and all different things what we all use. But if that wasn't there, what would we do? So one of my prepping things this year has been to make sure that I've got proper communication dealt with. So if someone says, "Oh yeah, we're running a seed bank," I get all their details, and then I know if the worst case scenario comes, I could post them, providing post is in place, or hand deliver it, whatever.
Get some pigeons.
Yeah, we send pigeons. They probably eat the seeds on the way. So I think as we roll forward, we're going to see a very different world, I'm sure. And for me, the growing side is perhaps something in the next year I'm now not going to be in the position to do, which does sadden me. However, I've kind of come to the conclusion, Anna, that as you know, I'm going on tour.
Yeah.
And we're going to be going all over the country, and I'm going to be involving all sorts of people like yourself to talk alongside me.
Looking forward to do that.
Well, we've got the first Great Resist talk is in a place called Thetford on the 22nd of February. I'm then up in Burnley on the Sunday. The next day we're in Burnley. So it's quite a trek, that one. And on the way, I've got a fruit and veg wholesaler to see.
Busy.
We're going to stay overnight, go for breakfast in the morning with a different group of people, and then do the show in the afternoon.
You crackled a little bit.
So one of the things which I'm looking to do this year,
prep, Mark, prep.
While we're going on the road, is to put a load of stuff in place before I go that will be here should I need it on my return. And especially I want to get some flyers down, Anna, so that when we're going round, we can hand flyers to people, even if it's a little, I don't know, an A4 booklet or something that we can produce ourselves, or something that will give people the basics on a bit of prepping, a bit of home growing, bit of seed saving, a little bit of cooking, just what those basics might be. Maybe a top 10 snippet of each one of those things which they can go away and think about, and start prepping for themselves. So we're taking the tour all over the UK. I think we've got about 50 dates booked so far, all in the evenings, all talk. Most of those are talks on either a weekend or something. So what I'm going to look to do, Anna, and I'll chuck this out to you as well, because I would like to do some shows where we can do some cooking and get people actually involved in the cooking. We'd like to do some shows where we are in the position that we can go out to places like cattle markets, which, kids these days are just not introduced to anymore. Sadly, I mean, at 5, I was already well equipped with going to a cattle market and moving cows about with no problem. My granddad had a Morris Minor, and I remember he bought 2 calves and just put them on the back seat, and we took them home.
Why not? How else you do it then?
Nan was not impressed. Bless her. But you know, there's a whole bank of things I want to do this year. While we're on the tour, you know, people I want to go and see. I want to go and see as many farmers as possible. You know, perhaps go and see some people who do prep on a big scale. You know, that kind of have things put in place, and so that we can give people a bigger kind of idea of what's involved in what we're talking about. You know, because a lot of people say, oh, you know, I've seen Mark and Anna, and I've thought about it, and I've put 20 tins extra in the cupboard, and that's the end of that. You know, maybe people don't. Yeah, maybe people don't sit down and do the maths enough. You know, I know it shocked me when I did the maths. I remember last year, and I was sitting down checking through all my items which I've got in storage, and I was like, right through from batteries to catapult and, you know, pallets for the air gun, everything I was going through, and I was like, Jesus, I thought I was well prepared, and there was so many holes in it. It was scary.
Yeah,
you know,
Mark, I did. Talking about the quantity, sorry, I did a video about the water, and it's like, oh, you know, rice and beans won't save you unless you have the water, because that shocked me myself. I just thought, let's actually work this out, because it's all well and good having 100 kilos of each sitting there, but if you only got enough water to do like 10 kilos each, it's not good. But funnily enough, you're talking about the quantities. I've actually working on a video now to do exactly that, to give people an idea of how much you need of everything. But I'm going on a 3-month basis because I think it's a safer way to go. And oh my God, it does work out. It's a little bit scary, but to be fair, if you actually add it up, I think it's probably not going to work out as expensive as one might expect, providing you do buy the cheap stuff. So
the problem is, Anna, you know, if you've got a family of, let's say, 4 or 5 of you, and you spend a couple of £100 a week on food, you know, to look at a 3-month supply, you're potentially looking at heading up to a couple of grand worth of stuff. And I think suddenly that scares a lot of people, and a lot of people go, oh my God, I can't afford to do that.
Yeah, you don't prep this way though, do you, Mark? If you think when you...
I know that, and you know that. I think the problem is that that's how people see it. Yeah. So a lot of the time they then just don't bother. And I think that's quite sad that people... from my side, you know, when I start looking at the prepping side, I was doing it over a long period of time, you know. Yeah. I don't believe now that people have a long period of time. That's the problem. But people will spend money on all sorts of bizarre shit, you know, like, I don't know, I'll go and get a new iPhone, what's £1,000? Yeah. But I won't consider spending £1,000 on food to protect my family.
Yeah, because I think, Mark, I think the people that choose to do that, the people that don't think that or don't believe that something's going to be happening, they say, well, if it's something going to happen, we can't help it anyway, so I'm just going to live my life and do. I heard, you know, a few people say that. That's why I think there's kind of people got this mindset, I'm going to live for now and sort the future. But when the future comes, especially if you have children, then you got to be probably thinking a bit different and thinking, oh, there's a £1,000 phone here that I can't use. I wish I had so many tins. But, you know... Go on.
With us going out on tour, I've been looking at things we need for the tour, like, you know, a camera and a laptop, and you know, maybe you know, a little iPad or something. Because I do everything off a mobile phone, that, you know, and so does Gloria. Yeah. And it was like, right, you know, and one of the things I've said that I want to do while I'm away this year is put together a book. Now that'll probably be a digital book, what's made up of videos, so I can kind of do section chapters on each. But looking at how you'd edit that and work on it, and Canva and different things you need to do things, and I'm suddenly like, well, I'm going to have to spend thousands of pounds on that, which I would rather spend on seeds or food, and I'm like, oh, you know, you've got to, I feel, gear yourself up for where you are. You know, a lot of people, if 20 tins satisfies their head, then that's what they need to do.
Can I give the example of, you say the people, because obviously people are put off by the price, and it's one of the common things that why people are scared of starting prepping, because they say prepping costs a lot of money. Well, again, I suggest them to find some videos for £5 a week, but if you don't have to spend that kind of money and you want to build up your prepping thing, so if your weekly shop is £200 a month, say, or a week, sorry, didn't you say? Yeah. Whatever the average is anyway, but you buy yourself meat, you buy yourself fresh milk, you know, other sort of luxury things. You buy yourself maybe cereals, whatever people generally buy. They're not
cigarettes,
sort of the
vapes.
Yeah, they're not sort of the prepping things. So, for example, the milk, you know, all they say a liter of decent milk, say, costs £1.60, right? But for £3, give or take £3.99, you can get yourself, say, a Marvel 325 grams of dry milk. And that's by far, okay, we're going to last you a good amount of time, because you only need a couple of tablespoons to make a liter. So this will be your prep to substitute milk. Like with the cereals, say, if you do buy, you know, kiddie sugary cereals, whatever people generally eat, or Kellogg's, whatever, you know, they're a lot of money. But look at the bottom shelf there, pick up, you know, the cheapest bits there, or the Weetabix or a porridge. Yes, it's not the same, but we're talking about the desperate times, because you can fortify your porridge with other bits, you know, vitamins and stuff, or you know, dehydrated fruit and veg. And again, it's far cheaper. If you buy your baked beans from Heinz, buy yourself baked beans from Lidl for 28p. The nutritional value is pretty much the same, you know. And those kind of choices, that's all make your preparedness journey that much easier, you know, and that much more affordable.
Yeah, and I think this is something that, you know, it's very easy to get lost in, I must buy the best. You know, well, I said, you know, earlier about when I twigged the price on the Heinz. I never buy Heinz stuff, I've got to say, because I think it's far overrated. But okay, so if we were talking water, Anna, because you know, you made the point about water.
You crackled, sorry, that's it.
I don't, between you and me, Anna, I don't want anyone repeating this back to Glory, but I don't like cooking. I don't do any cooking. Glory does all the cooking, right? I do the bits.
Well, she knows that. I'm sure she knows that.
Yeah, she does. But you know, I don't need anyone winding her up about it. You know what I mean?
That's fine.
Anyone who sees Gloria, don't mention the cooking. It's like mentioning the war to the Germans, you know. So what I want to know is this: if you wanted to cook, you know, let's say, I'm assuming that you must want a liter of rice to cook a saucepan of a liter of water to cook a saucepan of rice.
I've done so for the rice, right? Say rice and beans. That's what the last one was, because we all talk about rice and beans. So rice and beans, we need 2,000 calories a day, 2,000 to 2.5, obviously, depending. It depends what's happening outside, your rationing, and of course potentially rationing, and your physical activity to what you're doing. So on a base of 1,000 calories a day to get from your rice and beans, 200 grams of rice, 200 grams of beans, right? That give you 1,000 calories, give or take, okay, to consume for the day. 200 grams of rice require half a liter of water. Right. 200 grams of beans require 750. Okay, that's excluding the soakage. So if, like, I did the calculations for 3 months, on base of one person consuming this, you'll need 20 kilos of each, and you'll need 60 something liters for rice for 3 months, and 70 something liters, I think it was or a bit more, anyway, for that. So altogether 112 liters of water just for those two things alone. This is for one person.
And that's for one person.
Yeah.
And that's without drinking anything.
Yes, including drinking. There's 385, excuse my remember, but 382 or 385 liters. We're drinking on average 3 liters a day, again, which we don't really do. I don't think some people might do, but generally we don't. Again, if you are struggling or if you are rationing water, okay, yes, you can collect, of course, providing. But so 382. Yeah. So if you're doubling your rice and beans intake, or boiling anything else, or rehydrating your freeze-dried meals or dehydrated vegetables, it all needs that. So if you double that, we're looking at 700 liters for 3 months for one person.
That's you know, and you're talking about a lot. You know, we sell milk in the fruit and veg wholesale company, so I understand, you know, liters and lots of liters. Yeah. So that's a hell of a lot, you know. I mean, and the other side of that is that you need a way, if there isn't any mains water, not that I would like to drink mains water because it's shite anyway, but you need a way to, one, get the water, and two, to purify that water as well, whether that's through boiling it, bleach tablets to get the bacteria out of it before you boil the bleach out, whatever that might be. You've got to have a way to deal with that. So there's a lot of things, you know, and this is where I think people get, when they start breaking this down, they go, I just can't deal with it.
Yeah. Water preparedness is a whole different thing. It's a thing in its own right, because it's just not that simple. The only thing people can really feel better about, as I say, the rainwater, because I've got the water testing machine, and you can test for the purity, because I've got the reverse osmosis machine
Sure.
that can purify water. Anyway, the rainwater, when I test it, it's pretty much come up as it's been a distilled water in terms of the amount of stuff is in it. Can't taste for microplastics or anything like that, what people say, or forever chemicals in there, but is a purity, what the thing he counted, it was pretty nigh on that. So you still boil it, of course, but otherwise, yes, it's whole. It's a big thing out there, because you can stock as much water, as much food as you want. You can grow the food, but unless you can get water, clean water, it's a big one.
Talking about you know, you've got a tester. I've got various little testers hid away, like PHP testers and you know, strips. And I've bought a little thing this week for doing a PHP test of soil, because that's one of the things I wanted to do while I'm on the tour, was when we're talking to farmers, to be able to go around and physically do you know, check things in the soil to see the, you know, the actual how much goodness is in the soil. So that's one of the things we're looking at the minute. And I also got given for Christmas a little machine for I think I discussed that with you, didn't I? For checking the amount of nitrates.
Nitrates,
in fruit and veg, and it's absolutely scary. Anna.
Is it amazing? Not amazing, but amazing. Like,
I mean, I've got a friend of mine who only eats organic fruit and veg, and is always going on about, you know, now he used to buy some bits of me, and he'd say, "Oh no, I can't have them because you can't guarantee they're organic." And I was like, "Well, I grew it, you know. I know it's not, you know, not got no chemicals in here, but it's not certified." And then I tested when I went to his house, sticks of celery, watermelons, and I think the other thing was lemons, because he uses lemons, organic lemons, for making juice and for cleaning.
Tell him I hope he peels them. I really hope he peels them. Please tell him that.
So we tested everything, and everything 9 times out of 10 failed the nitrate test. And this was all highly organic stuff that he'd paid almost double the value for. And it was higher in nitrate than it was, you know, the stuff we were, you know, buying in from traditional farming. And I think what's happening now, you know, digress slightly here, but as farmers are, and one of the things I'm going to talk about this year on the talks is about the transition that farmers have got to make to grow the kind of food that the public wants to, in my opinion, eat in the future. And, you know, you've got those people that just eat any shit and don't care what, you know, whether it's Mackie D or, you know, whatever it might be, chicken Dougals or whatever. They don't care what they eat. They don't care what's in it. They just want to eat it. And, you know, in 10 minutes time, they're hungry again, because the fizzy drink's now gone out of their belly. They've burped a few times, had a good fart, and everything's all right again, you know. But the reality is, you know, you're not full of nutritional food. And that's the food what I want to see is developing, you know, in the structure going forward in the forthcoming years. So for me, homegrown is a big thing. I know that a lot of people say, "Oh, I haven't got enough space to do that," but I look at it like this. You know, an average person eats 3 meals a day, 1,000 meals a year, Anna. And like you say, it might be that they have to cut that down to, you know, 1 or 2 meals a day if rationing's necessary.
I don't eat 3 meals a day. I got to say that. I just don't seem to have a time.
No, I don't. I use that because that's the term. Is got 3 meals a day, you know. I don't. I only ever have a couple of meals, if that. But what I will say is that I think a lot of the pre-pack and trash you buy from supermarkets is about fill you quick with lots of flavour, and, you know, in an hour's time you're hungry again, because then you want some more fill with flavour, and then you want some more, and you want some more, and that's how they keep you going, you know, to spend more on your shopping. So I think if people really buy nutritional, densely, you know, nutritional food, that they actually end up spending less on the food because the body's getting more from it. So they spend a lot less than they would by, you know, needing to feed the kids 5 or 6 times a day. You know, they can get away with feeding the kids 2 or 3 times a day. And I think that's a big issue that people, again, don't understand when they look at prepping. They only look at it from the point of view of the bit they're looking at, which is the immediate cost, not what's it going to save us over the long term. You know, if you looked at it over a year and went, you know, it's going to save us £5,000, you'd be going, hold on, I need to be doing that twice over, you know.
Yeah.
So I think
it's not just about tins, as you say. It's just not prepping. It's again, it's a way of life. It's how people used to live. It's my grandma. It's, you know, growing stuff, preserving stuff. It's not that generalized hat that we sorry generalized hat that that put us under because of the Americans. Preppers is that prepping is just being prepared for everything. It's more so trying to be more self-sufficient and self-reliant without relying on government, because preppers, yes, some people say, you know, we're tin hat wearers or that kind of thing, or conspiracy theorists, but I look at it as we're not conspiracy theorists, or I'm speaking for myself because all preppers are different, but I feel that I need to know exactly what's happening so that I can prepare for it. So we all know, say, with the farmers and with the the other let's call it 2030 agendas of things that are happening, that, you know, the whole attack on our food and the quality of life. It doesn't make me a conspiracy theorist, but I know about it, and because I know about it, I'm now going to plan and trying to make my life better for my family in coming years by doing something about it. This is planning my growing space. And hands up, you've seen, you might not have seen, but my garden is very small. My garden, I think, always like 12 meters by 17. And I've got obviously the chickens on there as well. And I've got some, you know, growing space, but I'm doing trying to make some better plans to cram in as much as possible into the garden to prepare for that, because this is not a last minute thing. Preparedness, you can't just switch tap and like, oh, I'm ready for anything. It's just not how it works. Because gardening, if you're starting, it takes knowledge, DIY skills. You know, I'm learning, I'm getting my other half to teach me how to use, you know, drills and stuff like this, just in case, because I feel I want to know how to do this. We rely on employing people to come in and do things for us, but they may come, okay, that you can't for whatever reason, be it a digital IDs, you're not allowed to spend money, anything. So any of this learning skill malarkey, it's part of preparedness, as well as stocking up on the tins and everything else. Growing, preserving food as well, isn't it? It's a key thing, 100%. Because buying one thing, but you can't buy certain stuff, you know, like the dried vegetable, dehydrated vegetables. You can buy some, quite pricey, but if you grow your own, you can then preserve them, and you know exactly what's in it, you know, and store them properly. It adds on to that pool of knowledge and resources. Very important. Very, very important.
I mean, one of the things I called to see my parents the other day. My mum makes a lot of pickles and jams and things, and she was having a clear out and she said, "Oh, I've just got far too many. We don't need all these." And I was like, "Whoa, don't you start chucking stuff out." Give you that here. You know,
can eat them. I'll give them to you.
And you know, and she'd got about 50 jars of jam. She was like, you know, well, they're 2 years old now. Cool, give them here.
They'll be sitting there for another 10.
Absolutely. And I think one of the challenges that I see that creates issues, Anna, is, you know, we have to deal with out of date stuff. Because people believe that, you know, the date on it is the date. You know, well, if it's gone past that, you've got to chuck it out. You know, whatever happened to just getting a piece of meat out of the fridge was 3 days out of date, smelling it and going, that's still good. know?
Go for it.
Taste it a little bit and go, no, that's all right. You know, and I think that unfortunately we have become now not just the country, you know, but people as a whole, you know, and in a big percentage of the Western world especially, have been geared to no longer think there is an essential necessity to prepare.
Do you know what I say words for this? They've been geared to fail. They've been conditioned to fail. I think that's what it is. They washed away every single bit of knowledge or need for the knowledge for people to be able to survive without relying on current governments
on the system. And I think that's a relevant point. I mean, you know, I would say, you know, for those who have or have not followed the 2030 agenda, that it's worth looking at. I would say we've been heavily transitioned at present towards that agenda. And that scares me considerably as a dad and a granddad, because history repeating itself, as we know, food is something that they've used in the past lots of times to fold civilizations, or, you know, if you go back, you know, 1,000 years, they would have probably surrounded the castle and tried to starve them out. You know, but they would have always used food, would have been the biggest weapon they ever had to use, you know, whether it was under communism rule in China, Russia, wherever it might be, anywhere in the world where we've had food issues, that food has always been used as a weapon against the people. And that is what worries me, I think, at this point in time. You know, Anna, my mum is coming up for, my dad's 85 nearly, and my mum's at 78. And my mum said to me the other day, she was nearly in tears over, you know, something I'd said. And I said, you know, I said, it does scare me, Mum. And she said, I'm just pleased I'm at the age I am and I'm heading out the door. And she said, I'm just sorry that I've left you lot here with the muddle. You know, and I thought, that's kind of where I come from on it. I'm like, you know, I'm 57, I'm a big boy, and, you know, I'm heading out the freaking door anyway, you know. So that's why I want to go and do my tour now while I can still walk. You know, that whole ability to be able to protect yourself and your family, look after yourself and your family, cater for them, as in, you know, physically with food, has been diminished. The requirement for it, the knowledge for it, the necessity for it, you know, and that's where, if people like yourself, obviously, it's great that people like yourself who've still got a little bit of, as I think, as our dear friend Donald Trump says, the common sense. You know, that needs bringing back to the table, putting out there, and, you know, and showing people how to, while they can, and this is one thing I will say to people, while you can watch Anna's channel and get those videos, get a piece of paper out, write down things what she's talking about, and you know, and get that knowledge tucked away on a piece of paper. So, you know, even if you've got a barbecue, a campfire, you know, whatever it might be, you can do some cooking. You know, when we were kids, we would spend, you know, the 6 weeks of the summer holiday, we never went near the house. We'd just disappear with a tent and go for weeks on end, you know. We'd go home when we ran out of food and load up out of the pantry and be gone again before Mum missed us, you know. And we cooked everything on campfires, you know, a couple of breeze blocks and a bit of metal grill, you know. We're still here. We live.
But it's an important point you bring out, Mark. It's the equipment. Because yes, food is great, we can grow this, but you do need the ability, obviously, to cook it. Firstly, to cook it, and secondly, probably more important one, to preserve it. Because like with anything, people got to understand, like, when, you know, when the possibility of shortages, you know, in the news or anywhere, people dash to the supermarket and like buy up the food. So you can buy cents and or toilet paper, that kind of thing. But unfortunately, the same thing can happen when there are bigger threats, right? And people like preppers would worry things like, and it might sound a bit odd, like canning jars, the lids, the pressure canisters, you know, the ones that are a stovetop rather than the digital ones, all that will be going off the shelves. Things like the portable gases, the wood people get if you buy the wood for the fireplaces, that will be inhalated. So even if you wanted to then suddenly think, oh, actually, I'm going to start preserving my food, well, unless you have the stuff, you won't be able to do it. And that also goes for things like dehydrators, Mylar bags. You know, since the the conflict, right? The Mylar bags, you know, those little silver bags, they guarantee you to store your rice and beans for a lifetime, like literally forever, with the oxygen absorbers. Before the option of those online it's been loads, different sizes. You know, you can pick yourself, pick and choose. Since the conflict, they sold out of the cheaper ones. Now price has gone up by 3-4 times fold, and people are ooh. So I'm glad, a good example of foreseeing what is happening and buying stuff when you can. So even if you're not intending, for example, now to learn to pressure can, but you really want to the next, you know, couple of years in emergency, buy it now if you can, or start saving up for it and buy it when you can, because then you have it. I've been wanting a pressure canner for a very long time, and the American brand one is really, really expensive. It's like they're pushing like £400. But I said to my husband, I will save up and I'll get one, okay? Because even if I don't learn to can now, I will have it when I want it.
Absolutely.
Luckily, I found the cheaper version, and I've been canning anyway. I've been doing videos on pressure canning and the water bath canning but do you see my point, right? You don't have to do this now, but if you have an idea, find it now, because soon those cheap versions won't exist. The same with dehydrated. You can buy one still for £40. That's very good, because my original one, my husband got me for my birthday, I think, 12 some years ago, and it's still going, although I replaced it, but I still kept the other one because they're still £40 and it's good. It will do the job. So buy one, put it away if you want to do it, or practice, more likely practice and understand how it works. You know,
Yeah.
it's so important. It's such a big picture. It's a wholesomeness of preparedness, if I can call it that.
Yeah.
It's every aspect of your life has to be catered for and prepared for, not just food.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, Gloria did something the other day, and I looked and I thought, oh, you perhaps can't do that, because she didn't know not to, right? And
Right.
again, this comes back to what you were saying. And what it was I'd got some beans. And I shelled a load of beans and a load of pumpkin seeds that I'd got washed off and in trays. And I always just stand them on the windowsill somewhere just to get a little bit of sunlight and dry out really, really slowly.
Yeah.
She put them on some trays on top of the fire to dry out, and I was like, "They won't be no good. They'll be cooked."
They're like crispy now.
Yeah. No, they'll be fine. I said they won't. They will not shoot. They'll be cooked because they're obviously damp inside. That damper's got boiling hot. She was like, "Oh no, I've trashed all your seeds." It don't matter. But again, that's
can eat them
something
now.
a lot of people would say, "Oh, I dried them out on top of the radiator."
Yeah.
Well, they cannot dry out too quick. And again, it's these little things, little tidbits. I mean, I know recently we had some sacks of rice and beans and different things delivered, and I've got a vac sealing machine, and a heat sealer. So what I did was I broke it all down into kilo bags out of a 20-kilo sack, and then packed the same amount of every bag into like some real big plastic tubs so I could stack it up. So we kind of know, right, one of those is, a 3-month supply. And I could look at it and go, we've got, 2 years worth of supplies there, all broken down, all with the little bags what have the crystals in to suck the air,
oxygen absorbers.
Yeah. But again, that only comes from the knowledge I've learned in doing all this, because I've done it where I've got it so fucking wrong, it's untrue. And I've put things away and thought to myself, they're going to be fine. And then I've gone back to it a year later and it's all gone frigging moldy. And you go, oh no, you don't need that. If you're hungry, you don't want moldy food. So, and this is something I've had, dealing with moisture, dealing with, the right amount of cold, heat, everything else. You've got to be prepared to put the time into a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
But what is that time worth when you are absolutely arse against the wall to try and feed the family and there is no other food available anywhere? And that's the bit I always think back to. It's like, God, if my daughter or one of the girls or my son was to ring me in tears and say, Dad, I need to feed the kids, I would feel completely useless. Could I not put something on their table? So that for me was one of the things what drove me to learn a lot more about this industry.
Because the worst thing, isn't it, Mark, if you do put the stuff away, especially if you use a Milo bags, if you don't do something properly, you don't see what's happening there until you need it. And it's the worst time to find out if you're relying on that and you can't see it. One thing, can I mention whilst I remember, about the beans, right? Any kind of beans. Still, again, there's another step, whether if you feel you want to go there a little bit further, because the beans have some weevils or whatever, sometimes lay the eggs in them, and they can just come up and annihilate the whole lot. You can put the beans for about 30 minutes in the oven for about 80 or 90 degrees. That'll guarantee there'll be nothing left there. So then you can just vacuum it without even using the oxygen absorber, although I suggest strongly anyway for the longevity. But that's a good tip, because I've actually, if you look at your beans, right, when you buy them, and I bought them again in the massive sacks as well. If you pick up a handful, you'll see like little little holes. If you see that, there's somebody eating through that. There's a high possibility that something would be there waiting for a slightly warm temperature to decide then come up and not let it crop. So I do suggest that again, takes time, because how many trays can you put in the oven, but step worth taking, just because beans aren't cheap now, are they?
No, God, not in comparison to what they used to be.
Not anymore,
just some of the prices have got. I mean, I remember, all right, I'm going back a few years, but a 20-kilo sack of rice used to be £10, or a 25-kilo sack, in fact. And now you look at it and you go, that's probably 3-4 times that now. And some of the things, I mean, obviously Gloria's Nigerian, and she'll send, she'll get messages coming through from the family about how much things are going up in Nigeria now. Nigeria is a classic case, a bit like us. They are a nation what grew more food than they needed. But because of how they're being played and they're being pitted against each other and all the bullshit what's going on out there, their food's becoming really difficult to get hold of. And as a result of that, food inflation's gone up 300-400% a month.
Wow.
It's just running wild. and again, I mean, that we can see that happening here so easily.
Mm.
You know, and where I think we are at present is we've got the farmers have taken a little bit of action. They're taking a little bit more action, and they'll keep upping the game until they want the government to back down over the inheritance tax and fair food prices, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And as a direct result of that, what we're seeing is the food prices and food inflation is going up and up and up. Yes, it might not be running at maybe what it is in some other countries, but it's still going up. And at this point, England, you know, as a country, we still have enough wealth to be able to import food if it costs a little bit more, right? Because of credit facilities, because of our hold on the rest of the world, because of our colonial bullshit, what we've created around the world. Now that at some point is going to wear thin, and at some point people are going to say, we just can't send you anymore because we need it for our own people, right?
It's pretty close to that, I reckon.
Well, I was going to say, Anna, that's where I think we are. That's where I think we are. And I, you know, when I talk to, you know, Gloria talks to the family back home, and I've got friends in America even, you know, which are saying the same thing, you know, farmers out there, which are saying, you know, our food system is literally about to collapse.
Yeah.
You know, they've culled so many animals. They've put water restrictions in place, you know, all the bullshit what's going on around the world. So I don't think we're a million miles away from that. I think the time for prepping is now, I have to say. So, Anna, what's the channel name, firstly?
Mine, Anna's Food and Lifestyle.
And that's on YouTube?
Yeah. You can see that obviously my name underneath there. And I just have like my little not green logo, little round logo with my face in it. And all my thumbnails have a little pink food and lifestyle thing. You can't really miss it. But you can put prepper, you can put that. It's
because I can't emphasize, you know, I can't emphasize enough to my followers, you know, get across onto Anna's channel and start to actually research this stuff. You know, you'll hear me going on and on and on about food shortages for the last 2 years, and a lot of people follow me. You know, I think we've got about heading up to 70,000 across all of our social media.
Yeah,
and
amazing.
You know, but are they actually taking it in? And that's what worries me. I know a lot of people, if you go through the YouTube comments, say, oh, I've been prepping for years, I'm doing this and doing that. Yeah. We might get hundreds of those comments.
We want to hear from people that's starting, don't we? That's what we want. People.
That's what I was going to say. What I'd like to see is people saying, shit, this has really woken me up. I didn't realise this, didn't understand this. You know, I want to get involved. You know, where can I go to get some more information? And, you know, because this video will give a little snippet. Annie, you said you're doing a video at the moment explaining about all this. Is that something what we could turn into some sort of, I don't know, a document that we could hand out at the events? Because, you know,
you talk about the food. The amount of food rather than the contaminated food.
Yeah. So amount of food that someone might need, you know, to get through just one person 1 month, you know, if they wanted the basic couple of meals a day, let's say, and to break that down, something that, you know, I want to bring that, I hate to say this, but I want to get that shock factor this year so people actually go, I need to act on this, because what I don't want to see is thousands of people starving, and that is where I have to say that's where I see it going. And I want to try and be one of the people out there who can look back on this and go, fucking hell, thank God I did that, because I know I saved some people, you know. If there's a document what you can put together that we can, you know, that I can get printed and take around all these talks would be amazing.
Absolutely. It's easily done, Mark, easily done, because I've done this, I think, when I did the bushcraft show like a few years back. I've actually had a piece of information was saying, but I think I did this for a year. But obviously we want to do a month, but what I can do, put the amount you need on average per person per month of the food, and then a vague ideas like
I think a year might scare people.
Say again?
I think a year might scare people.
Yeah. But then I have idea for the recipes to what to cook. So if I say you buy rice and beans and oats and that kind of thing, but people got to understand that when we are in a position where we are lacking the food, it's not going to be like, you know, let's eat super pancakes with cream and fresh berries. It's not what the life is going to be holding when we are short of food. This is going to be a survival with what you have, and then you try to make it better, make it tasty with dehydrated stuff and growing. I'm all for, right? And again, but I've been the preparedness thing. I've been doing this for years. I've been concentrating on dehydrating for the past God knows how many years. Excuse me. But I am personally, I don't just want to be in a position where I'm just surviving and just eating rice and beans and there. I want to be able to thrive, or at least have as good of a quality life I have comparing to now. Without having many sacrifices. And this is one of the main points I'm doing the back to basics videos as well, which obviously you all know as well. The is to get to people to understand that stocking up raw ingredients for certain things, it's sometimes better than having already ready-made ones in your pantry, if that makes sense, right? Because the raw ingredients will genuinely last you longer. But once you know how to do things, you can say, if you stock, say, flour, yeast, right? I did a few breads on the back to basics, and again, surprising that all of the little muffins, anything else, is pretty much consists of the same 3-4 ingredients, and it's simple. So then suddenly, if you think, oh, people imagine if it's really tough out there, we're just going to eat like flat bread and cook it on the fire, that kind of thing. No, you can still eat normally, but you just have to do things yourself. Invest a bit more time cooking them, but you can have what you want, providing you prep for it accordingly.
No, I absolutely agree. So from your side, Anna, you've got a website, haven't you?
Yes, annafoodlifestyle.com.
Okay, annafoodlifestyle.com. We'll get Pete to put a link up for that as well. I think what's important from my side, what's come out of this, Anna, because it's made me think about a few things, I've got to say, as it always does when we talk, and I always find
the idea, Mark. It's the idea.
Oh my God! But what I'm excited about is this tour's coming together. The BOWLERHATFarmer.com is going to have a list of all the tour dates on there. I know we're literally going to cover England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. Well, no, England, Wales, Scotland. Sorry, we're not doing Ireland this year. We're going to do Ireland in 2026. I've got a lot of requests from down the West Country. I'll say we're going to be going to farmers markets. We're going to be going to cattle markets. We're going to be going to farm shops. I want to go to people who make food. Let's say small cottage industry type food. I want to go to all of these places and get people to understand, because one of the things which has come out of when we built the foodfindershub.co.uk, one of the things I found with that was a lot of the people who are putting themselves on don't really ever do any videos themselves. So what I want to end up with is a complete collection of videos made throughout the course of the year that highlight and put some emphasis on the opportunities there is out there to buy food outside of the supermarkets, because my passion for hating them bastards is unbelievable. And I have no time for supermarkets at all. I want to get back to basics, Anna, where we're talking about, here's a farmer that grows food. Here's your plate that requires food, and there's nothing in the middle. We don't need all this shit what they put in our food. Whether that's made up with extra salt, sugar, flour, whatever it might be to pad it out. We don't need that. What we need is good quality, wholesome food.
Absolutely.
Meat and veg, whether that's, one of the things I'd like to get into making, Anna, as well, I don't think we've done a video on this, is making pasta, because I think pasta is something that people do like to eat, but it isn't necessarily the best thing in the world to eat because of starches and things. And I think it is something people could get into making. And I know it's not the easiest thing in the world, and I have tried.
It's actually fairly easy. It's actually fairly easy.
But I tell you what, I did see the other day, someone was making I don't know what they're called. Like, you get these like little pasta shells with meat in the middle, and they've got a little machine what they folded over, and it folded it with the meat in the middle. And I was like, wow, even I could do that.
I've got one. They're pretty cool. It's pretty flimsy one, but it's okay. But to be fair, Italians do this by hand, and it's easier once you know how. But it's actually on my list for the pasta on my back to basics. But I thought it's not really that basic. It is basic, but whether people want to go is time consuming a little bit if you do, especially if you do it by hand. But if the electricity goes out and people can't go on YouTube for the next 2 years, and spend all their time, vaping and all the other nonsense they have to do, they should have plenty of time for cooking. And that's what we need to get back to. One thing I would say is if people are going to get back to cooking, involve the kids, because kids and grandkids want to be in the kitchen playing with food. I drove past school the other day, and there was 2 little girls outside absolutely
covered from head to foot, sat in a puddle. They were about, I don't know, about 18 months, 2 years old, sat in a puddle playing with muddy water, and they were having a whale of a time. And I just like, yes.
That's how it should be. But you know, you're saying about the electricity, right? There's no internet. It's on my mission to add on to my website, like printable back to basic recipes. No fuss, like no pictures, because it just takes me time. Obviously, I'm pushing my limits with my time with doing the recipes alongside of my daily life and the other videos. But no fuss recipes, the back to basic one, so people could just print. Some people suggested whether they should be like A4 size or A3, like half. I don't know how to do this on my website. I just want to put them out there so people can have them. But the importance of as well, people rely on internet, like I said, a lot. And if you don't remember, you might know, but you might forget. It's very easily done. Having something you can just print and have it like your Bible. I'm wanting to do a book, but again, it's something that we talked about. But again, it's going to take far more time than potentially we have for people to do it. So this way, if I get stuff out there, then people can just print stuff. Even not my own stuff. Anything people can find, print it.
I got sent this week some interesting books, which were 60-page documents on a couple of interesting things. One being electroculture, one being hydroponics, one being I forget the other one was. It's like biodiversity of soil, and these books were 100 years old.
Wow!
But somebody copied them. Wow. Yeah, they're 100 years old. Someone's taken them to bits, photocopied it all, put it into as a PDF, and they were sent to me. And I thought. So I've got them copied and bound because I thought they're really interesting books to have a copy of.
Yeah. Have you printed them?
To be able to flick back on, if you were designing something, to be able to go, how would they have done that 100 years ago?
Yeah.
So I think the information that people want is out there. They might have to dig a little bit to get it, but the awakened community are great at finding everything. That's for sure.
Yeah. Have you printed that book, Mark?
I have. It's printed and bound, all 3 copies. And I've then sent it on to a couple of other people, and they've done the same. So we're going to keep doing that until we've got a little bit more information out there.
There is a good website. Hold on, I'm just thinking. I don't have an example here. There's a good on my Facebook page. There is a group that I've added on, and I asked him to post stuff on there. Called. Anyway, I'll put the link somewhere. I'll give you the link. You can post it there. The guy basically for the past few years been collecting all the PDFs of books. So people donate the PDFs. So he goes through them and then he publicizes them. So you can then literally go there, download it and print it. And I've started to, but I've stopped again, lack of time. But it's literally, he's got like thousands, like 5,000 PDFs on anything from home remedies to books on preparedness, to books on foraging. It's so much information there. So handy. Excellent. And like, you know how much books are, and I appreciate it costs people to produce books and stuff, but I cannot afford to spend £150 on a prepping book for like DIY or something else, right? I just can't. And many people can't. If you want to buy a few books, they're going to cost you thousands to what you want to have as in a library. Buy yourself a cheapish printer, couple of sheets couple of things of paper, and the ink that you can pour in that type of thing. I've been printing those books like crazy, and I don't care what they look like. They're not pretty. They're not going to sit on the shelf.
They don't need
Put the little thing in there, keep them together in a box. Just information. Just have them there. Yeah. It's so important. But it's amazing. The books are there. He's got. It's just great. It's absolutely so.
Send us a link for that. We'll get it in. And I'm conscious we've been an hour. I'm conscious that you and I have a million things to do in this world with prepping and life.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
That's okay. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
No, it's been my pleasure. And I'm sure that in the next few weeks, as I get some dates more towards your direction, I know I've definitely got some heading out towards the Welsh borders. So what I'll do is I'll get together with yourself, and I definitely want to invite you on the tour with me to come and talk, because you're one of the people who's inspired and encouraged me to kind of take a bigger step into this journey. Scary as it is, and really I think it's down to people like ourselves now to involve the public, and that's one thing I want to emphasize for the tour, that I want it to be a public tour. I want them to understand by the time we've finished this tour where we've been, why we've been there, what we've achieved, you know,
Yeah.
and some of the farms, you know, are going through the transitions at the minute of coming away from monoculture and are looking at mixed farms again. You know, to be able to go back on them preps in 2026 and be able to see how that transition's coming, so that people can understand that there is options out there for their food supply other than them bloody supermarkets.
Yes,
Anna,
absolutely. Sounds great.
It's been a pleasure, Angel. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see you in due course, darling.
Yes, take care. Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye-bye. Bye.